Hey everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Turning Readers into Writers with me, Emma Desi. And today I'm delighted to be talking to Dana B Auer, who writes post-apocalyptic science fiction with the hope of helping his readers become aware of their current state of preparedness for unannounced emergencies. He was born and raised on a country farmstead in eastern Wisconsin, the youngest of five boys, my goodness. A professional semi-truck driver by day, he's certainly learning the craft of writing through podcasts and workshops in his spare time. And today, with his lovely wife of 40 years, they now live in the driftless region of western Wisconsin near the Mississippi River. And his first novella, 3:33 a.m. was published in 2023. So welcome, Dana. Lovely to have you here.
Yes, thank you, Emma. I really appreciate the opportunity to try and help a new writer. As
Yeah.
you and I have, you've been so helpful to me. I hope I can repay it, pay it forward and help new writers out with this interview.
Yay. Oh, no, I appreciate you being part of it. And it's exactly that, isn't it? It's paying it forward. That's what I did as well, or continuing to do now, that the help that I got when I was starting out. It's so nice to be able to be standing on the shoulders of those people and then help lifting others up as well. Before we dig into the interview, though, I'm fascinated by the name of where you live, the Driftless region. Do you know why it's called that?
Well, the glaciers created much of the Wisconsin landscape, and the driftless region is follows along the Mississippi River. And Jackie and I live about 7 miles away from the river, and we fell in love with it over 30 years ago and made it our home, raised our two adult children now, and built a new home 5 years ago, and it's where we're going to stay. It's just gorgeous out here. There's
Wow, okay. So it's sort of driftless because it sounds like it's got a big expanse, big wide expanses.
Yes, bluffs, the river bluffs, the coulees, they're called. They're deep ravines inside those bluffs. It's just beautiful.
Okay. One for my bucket list. I've got to add that into
Yes,
my
yes, come and
travel list.
visit us. We'll have you stay with us, Emma. So absolutely.
So, as well as traveling to that part of the world, you have also traveled into the writing world as well. So, I wonder if you'd share with us, just first of all, how you've made that kind of move into writing. Did you always write? Did you write as a child as well?
I wrote poetry. I had maybe 80 to 100 poems written, and I moved out to the state of Maine when I was 18 and just graduated from high school. And back then I tended to meet up with various street people, so to speak. I was more comfortable in that realm, and I ended up finding a group that was into poetry as well. And can you believe, Emma? They ended up with my book of poetry, and I never saw them again after that.
No.
Yeah,
Oh
so
no.
a lot of my a lot of the poetry that I had written as a teenager was gone. I did have some rough drafts on paper that I was able to recover some, and I've reclaimed maybe around 80 to 100 since then. Um, the Yeah, the short stories, some newspaper articles. I really didn't write any book, any fiction until after I was married after 1984. My father-in-law saw me doing some writing and some note taking and things, and he mentioned an idea, a space fantasy type idea, and I ran with it. I wrote about 8 chapters, and I don't know if I got bored or life got busy, but I put it down. And it wasn't until COVID occurred.
Mm.
I I had a 30-day mandatory quarantine here in the States, and Jackie works in an office, which I'm in right now. She works in this office at home, and I didn't want to disturb her while I was off for 30 days. So I got on the computer and I had an idea sparked earlier from an experience with owning a rural 20 acres of land and having friends around the campfire and talking about the current state of the world
Mm.
and the possibility of needing some survival preparation. And so we thought about building a bunker, an actual survival bunker for friends and family to come to if there was an emergency, and God forbid, you know. So we ended up selling that land. We used that money to help build our brand new home 5 years ago, which I pretty much built with some help, but on my
Wow.
own hands. And during that quarantine time, 30 days, I wrote 60,000 words in 30 days. And that was the start of 3:33 a.m.
Gosh.
It just came out. The timing, the scenario that the world was in, the
Mhm.
fear, the conflict, the tension, it just came out of me. I didn't have to struggle very hard to get those 60,000 words. I'm a pantser by writing standards. I do outline now a little bit because it is helpful,
Yeah.
as you and many others have taught me through my podcast listening. But it's that 60,000 over the last 5 years has grew to 103,000. That 103 ended up building into approximately 120 plus thousand. And I've turned through professional advice, I've turned that 120 into three separate 40,000 word novellas.
Hmm.
And Savannah Gilbo, who is friends of yours as well as mine, she her guidance, her professional manuscript evaluation helped to break that novel down into three separate novellas because of the.
Let me just stop you there. Let's kind of go back a step because I think people will be interested to learn a little bit more about your process.
Mhm.
So you started off, whoa, explosion of words, the 60,000 came and then you've expanded. But in terms of being a pantser, with those first 60,000 words, did you have a sort of feeling for the beginning, the middle, and the end? You sort of roughly knew what was going to happen, or did you have a scene in your head and you just went with it from there? What was the kind of pantsing or discovery writing process for you?
Yeah, each scene built on the scene before. The first and naturally it changed. I bet I read that first 60,000 words 30 times. I had no idea what I was doing. No idea. I spent a great amount of time trying to learn the craft while driving semi. Uh, Spending the amount of time that I do in the driver's seat, there's a lot of time on my hands, and what a blessing that was, because
Mhm.
I would listen to you, I would listen to all your former podcasts, um, multiple podcast hosts, Savannah, all of hers from the very first one to the current, and it just gave me that opportunity, and I'd like to think that it was college course, in my semi over podcasts. And now, have I remembered all of that, and have I followed all of the rules, Emma? Probably not.
No, none of us do. You
Yeah,
take
I
what you
broke
need
I
at the
broke a
time.
few rules. I know I have. So, but the going from the first chapter, it just flowed, and
Mhm.
each scene helped to create the next. And
So I think that's often a good way of doing it, though. So you've got that initial idea at the beginning. You could visualize how the story was going to start, and then just followed it along as it went. And one of the things I like about that style of writing is that there's an organic flow to it. So one thing leads to another to another. That cause and effect trajectory that we often talk about is naturally there because you're taking your cue from what's just happened. and thinking, well, my character, this has happened to my character, what would they do? They'd do this, and then that leads the story on. And so, did you find by the time you got to the end of those 60,000 words, like I do, you think, wow, that was a great journey. Oh my goodness, now I've got a lot of work to do on the back end of this to give it the shape that it needs.
Yes, I sure did. Building different character arcs and, having a new character introduced and working with a totally, off the wall concept that pops into my head while I'm driving, and I'm trying to write it down so I don't forget, or I maybe tape record it on my phone just to keep it fresh.
Yeah.
Because many of them that I didn't tape record or write, I lost.
Mhm.
What was I thinking about there? And took it's such a journey. It isn't easy. There's no doubt about that. It takes so much diligence and just a steadfast goal. Why am I even doing this? Jackie is my wife. Jackie is a cross stitcher. You know,
Mhm.
cross stitching. Yeah,
Yeah.
very intricate, needlework and beautiful pictures. She's a expert cross stitcher. She's done it professionally for pay even.
Wow.
She she would be in her on her chair doing her cross stitching, and I'd be all the way across the room on the computer doing writing. And it just when we would have dinner, we'd stop. But most of the time, it spent over the last 5 years has been, on in front of the computer or handwriting, on a notepad in while I'm unloading my semi tanker.
Yeah.
I would take that 45 minutes and I would go ahead and write a scene,
Mhm.
or I would um, put together some ideas or something that I could carry forward that evening and
Mhm.
spend, you taught me finding time to write in a busy schedule. If I work 50 hours in a week driving semi, I needed to figure out when I could write in order to finish this thing.
Mhm. It's a passion, isn't it? And it sounds like this has been a real passion project for you. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't recall if it was Savannah or you or who actually, I'm going to plagiarize here, but they taught me that 95% of, people who say out loud, I'm going to write a book someday, they never finish their first draft.
Mm.
5%, the remaining five, maybe finish that first draft, but only 1% of those five go on to publish their work, whether it's self-published or traditional.
Mhm.
I'm proud of myself to claim that I've become a published writer.
Oh,
Uh,
good. You know, it's so great to hear you say that because I don't hear enough authors say, I'm proud of what I've done. I'm proud of the hard work that I've put in and the commitment that I've shown to this. We have a tendency to lean towards what we feel we've gotten wrong rather than, oh my goodness, I did this. This is amazing. So it's really nice to hear you say that.
yeah, it's an accomplishment, and so many people would say, well, purchasing my book from me personally, oh, I don't know where you found the time to even do this. They know how busy Jackie and I are socially, professionally.
Mhm.
They know people that know me know how big of a commitment that it would be,
Mhm.
and
And so
how
how do
many of
you, when if you're approaching your week, if you know you've got your shifts coming up or you've got your drives coming up, how is it that what's the best process for you for making that time for your writing? Do you try and do a little bit every day, or does it have to be kind of wait till you've got a day off? What's the best way for you?
well that it helped having that 30 days free for
Hmm.
sure, for 60,000. The rest of the time it was daily writing, even if it was just a sentence or even if it was just an idea that
Right.
I could enhance, at a later time.
Hmm.
I many times I'd get interrupted by the phone or Jackie saying, come on, we gotta go, or, something lawn cutting, maintenance work, something needed to be done. And as much as I wanted, or I was into it at that moment and I wanted to keep going, you have to stop. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it just works itself. What's the reason? Why is what why do you have for doing this?
Mm-hmm.
I can't exactly describe in words what my uh, total motivation was, other than that deep down inside drive to finish it and publish it. But the underlying theme of 3:33 a.m. the series is that I care about humanity. I I am not, there's chaotic times in the world right now, and the worst case scenario for the world. Well, I hope none of that ever happens. But the other issues like tornadoes and floods, snowstorm, blizzards, uh, hurricanes, all of these types of emergency, people are not prepared for, withstanding them, surviving them.
Mm-hmm.
I think of here in Wisconsin, the winters can be fairly rough, and snow gets blown and drifted. If a person drove off the road accidentally and wasn't able to be seen, and they were injured in their car, could they survive? Stuck down a ravine,
Yeah.
and not able to move or get out of there, cold, the vehicle's not running, would they be able to survive this? And most people don't even have what's called a bug out bag or a get home bag in their car. They maybe a blanket, some extra boots, some warm clothing, a candle for heat, some dehydrated foods, some water,
Mm-hmm.
basic things inside of this get home bag.
Right.
So my caring for humanity kind of came into this on a survival basis.
Mm-hmm.
How can my readers of my book better prepare themselves for any emergency? If the grid goes down, if we lose power, it could be pretty chaotic. And you know, uh, not very many people are prepared.
No, I certainly wouldn't be if that was to happen to me. But I think you've picked up on a really great point here that often a lot of the best stories come from a drive within the author. The author has something to say, not the storyline, but they have something to say about the world and how they see the world. And I think that's a great point that you've made. And not a lot of authors, I think, do think about this. What is it that we're trying to say about the world? And it can be something sort of big, like you're talking about, like disasters, natural or otherwise, can be something to do with the climate or the state of humanity, but it can also be those small things as well about interpersonal relationships. But whatever it is, it's really important that we as the author understand what it is that we're trying to say. And so did you find that that helped to kind of drive the story forward and drive your characters forward?
Yeah, that's a great uh, question to think about, because the story was built off of myself as a truck driver,
Mm,
Dan Ayer and his wife Ailyn are Dana and Jackie Auer,
right.
and the Hattie and Reese are my daughter and my son, and many of the other characters came from my imagination, but many of them came from friends and family and coworkers.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea that refresh my what where I'm going with this on the question, Emma. What
Just
the
that theme of, humanity kind of, did that help propel the story or your characters forward?
Yes, yes,
Mm,
because not only do I want my family to survive in case of an emergency, but everyone.
yeah.
I did learn, there are certain things that a person should be able to read a book about and not really tell. They can't tell what the author's views are. about the world,
Mm-hmm.
maybe about religion, or maybe about politics, or so I did have, I'm a strong, belief system type of an individual. And I did have a hard time with that. I wanted to put my sway onto the story, my views, my points. So it was difficult to do that, to
Yeah.
keep it all unbiased, to keep it flowing so that anyone could read these books and take from it, the main theme was.
That's really strong self-awareness that you've got there of kind of knowing, okay, I need to pull back on this because although the characters are based on you and your wife, they are characters as well, and they've got this other story going on in this fictional world. And I think you were astute to kind of rein it in because readers do want to they want to see what the character is thinking, but equally they want to be able to make up their own mind about whether they agree with the character or not, and not feel they're being lectured to or told how to do something. So it was really astute of you to kind of recognize that. So kudos to you. I want to just ask you, because you made the choice to self-publish, and I think that was a conscious choice right from the beginning. Is that right? And what made you make that particular choice?
Well, learning the difficulty of obtaining an agent, uh,
Mm,
of having a traditional publisher choose to publish your work, the timeline of having that accomplished
mm,
could be years and years before you'd end up with a traditional publishing contract. Uh, uh, you know, Deep down, my main goal was to become a published author, leaving ego aside. Not that I wouldn't consider a traditional publishing contract, but leaving the ego aside, I didn't necessarily need it on my first published work.
mhm,
I have learned so much. I've learned all aspects of the writing process, the book publishing process. I think traditional publishers, authors tend to miss out on some of that benefit, some of that learning curve, some of the joys, the experiences that are involved with, being hands-on with the cover graphic, work that's done, being, figuring out how to get an ISBN and having graphic artists to place it onto the back cover.
mhm,
Uh, all of the editing process. Traditional, you send in a draft, and oftentimes they completely change the story.
mhm,
I didn't really want that.
mhm.
I wanted my words to flow, yes, edited, of course, but in such a way that it didn't change what it was, how I wrote it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot. I'm sure we could spend several minutes on this conversation alone. There's a lot of differences here. I own the rights to my work.
Mm,
I can negotiate with the help of a good lawyer for future movie production.
mhm,
Uh, I might have been tricked into losing that, possibly.
mhm, mhm.
With a small print writing contract, and having that traditional publish end up with the rights to the
Yeah.
future movie rights.
Yay.
Uh,
There's a big element of control, isn't there? That as an indie, you do have kind of a say, a strong say in what's going to happen. I have to say that was one of the reasons that I opted for the indie space as well, as I wanted that control. That if I was going to fail, I'll fail by my own hand. But if I'm going to succeed, I'd like to succeed by my own hand as well. So I'm curious, the writers listening to this, they're familiar with the writing process and the difficulties with that, but they may not yet have gone through the publishing process. And I wonder if there was anything that you found surprising or interesting, or not what you expected in terms of actually publishing the book and putting the book out into the world.
well, I used Amazon's process. Would I use Amazon again? Yes, they make it, as long as you're willing to put in the effort to learn the process, they do make it pretty easy for a semi truck driving, novice writer to follow through and end up with a published work.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, I read, different blogs or different social media posts, and people maybe cutting them down, or having reasons why they're not happy with Amazon right now. But I got up to be totally honest, I have no complaints thus far.
Good.
They make, just yesterday, I in book two I found three different areas where I wanted to change, add or change a, maybe fix an edit that we missed.
Mm.
So simple. I just did it and I republished it, and then I got an email that it was all done, and anyone who orders book two now is going to get the finished work. So uh, I'll use them again.
Yeah.
I don't have any reason not to. Um,
And have you opted to go exclusive with Amazon, or have
no,
you've got the option to go wide?
I do. I do. I
Mhm.
did that on purpose. I didn't want to be locked in. So that what Emma's referring to is there's two options: that you could go exclusively with Amazon alone and reap a little bit more of a financial gain on royalty per book sold, or get a little less and have more control. And I went with the less and more control. If a traditional publisher or a movie producer or someone, gave me an option, I certainly wanted to have that option to move forward with that. So,
Yeah. Yay.
uh,
So that's nice then. It sounds like the thing that surprised you, particularly well with Amazon, was how easy it was, how simple a process it was. So that's a nice.
first one, first one was difficult, Emma. I mean, I
Ah,
struggled, and I had to use their help center, and I had several operators at different times chatting with me and helping me, why didn't this work, and they'd explain it. And once I got it, the first one done, book two was a breeze, and I'm hoping book three is simple, easy peasy. It just goes right through and gets published. So,
but well, talking about book three, why don't you tell us about book one? Why don't you tell us about 3:33 a.m.? And I can see that you've got the book cover in the background if you wanted to show us it. But yeah, tell us about it. Who might enjoy this book?
there's been roughly 400 books distributed, and so from book one and book two. So let's just say there's 200 readers who have purchased my book so far, and several of them have put written reviews on my author page, not prompted necessarily by me. Some of them are people who bought those books directly from me, from my hands, and most of them are from Amazon purchasing. The uh, the people who, you know, I had a struggle with this because you and many others trying to get me to, write specifically for a group, you know, um, telling me you're not going to, appease every woman and every man in every age group, you know, uh, pick pick us a a spot and work towards, helping those individuals gain desire for your book. Well, no, I tried to break the rule. I want everybody to enjoy my book, and I want it. Although it's twisted and there's a lot of conflict, I don't think it would be appropriate for maybe 12 and under, you know.
Okay.
Some some youngest readers who are brought up in the survival prepping type lifestyle, maybe they would be able to handle it, but most kids couldn't.
Hmm.
So everyone could gain something from the book, but I did, because I'm the age that I am in my lower 60s, and Dan and Ailyn, the main protagonists in the book, are 64, roughly. Most likely age 45 and above, men, generally speaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I threw in some really kick butt women, strong characters. Carla is former military. Every woman who's read the book absolutely loves Carla as a character.
Well,
They
give
love
us the
it.
premise of the story, Dana.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, the grid is taken down by some nefarious actors within on the East Coast. The president is assassinated through this action. There are the the grid going down puts the world into chaos. Ace and Ailyn are separated by their workplaces. They're at work. They are they need to meet at back home. And then there's an 11-day journey by foot to get to an underground bunker sanctuary that he and his friend Mike have built together over the years. They're preppers, and they've put in the time and the effort to help survive to for their families. When that's the first book, is the first 11 days.
So the premise being that the two, Ace and Ailyn, they've got to try and get to this bunker for safety. And so I imagine that adventure ensues along the way.
Yeah, there's a lot of conflict and action
Yeah.
from that point. The world goes crazy. The world shuts down, and people are hungry, and they're willing to do whatever they have to do to survive as well. And
Hmm.
so Ace and Ailyn, their walking journey helps them. They hide most of the time, but they find themselves having to fight for their survival to get
Yeah.
to the bunker.
Hmm.
Right, the day that they get to the bunker, another catastrophic event takes place,
Okay.
nuclear,
Okay.
and they survive.
Wow. Okay.
So
Oh,
the
and you've said that if people like stories like The Road by Cormac McCarthy or Swan Song by Robert R. McCammon, that they might like 3:33 a.m. as well. This might be something they'd enjoy.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me of that, Emma. That's, every book has its own element of uniqueness, and I wouldn't want to mislead viewers to say that my book is exactly like any of those, but it has the general idea of survival and life after, and
Hmm.
just so much action and conflict. The conventions and tropes that are involved with post-apocalyptic sci-fi are, it's such that there's a lot of movement, and there's short sentencing and quick action, and if it's there being that there are novellas, 40,000 words, I've had individuals read it in one setting.
Okay. Okay.
I'll call a person up, a friend, where are you at on the book? Oh, I finished it the first night. Like,
Well, there you go. They couldn't put it down. That is the
couldn't put it
best
down.
review you can get.
Exactly.
Yay. So books one and two, they are out. Am I right in thinking that you are currently working on book three?
Book three is completely drafted and in the hands of Anne, my editor. And after that, it'll go through a copy editing process through another friend of mine who's a teacher, and loves the series, just loves it. And so I'm setting September 29th, Sunday, September 29th, as a launch date for book three, and book three is called Federation Earth.
Okay. Okay.
There, So 3:33 a.m., Enough Was Enough, and Federation Earth. And I didn't come to this realization until just recently that if you're at all familiar with Star Trek, the Federation of Planets, right?
Hmm.
Roddenberry, all of that came about in 2060.
Right.
Okay? So this is 2026 through 2028 in this series. I may, as another project in the future, separate of the trilogy, but
Hmm.
I may work that Federation Earth idea
Right.
into the early stages of how the Federation of Planets came about in 2060.
Wow. So there's definitely plans for who know for a new trilogy or a new series that will
Yes.
sounds like it's just ruminating right now as you finish off the trilogy. Well, you've whetted everybody's appetite for this trilogy. Thank you. Tell me, where can people find out more about you and, of course, more about the books?
Well, I'm not on Facebook, and that surprises many people. The you know, again, the world's chaos and conflict, and I hate to put it in political sense, but Facebook did some things that I wasn't particularly fond of, and I boycotted them. The
Okay.
censoring of free speech is not okay with me. I
Hmm.
I'm just not okay with that at all. So to my lack of benefit financially, maybe I chose to get off Facebook. I'm on Truth Social.
Okay.
Uh, I'm also on Rumble, and I just recently joined on X, on the
Okay.
old Twitter platform.
And what are your handles on those? Are they all Ace 333 AM?
.com. Yep. Ace. Yeah, that's my domain name, ace333.com. And uh, I am I okay to give a email address? Can
If
I
you
give?
wish to, yeah.
People could contact me. It's okay. It's a little harder to maybe they'll have to write it down. Obviously, it's D as in Dana, J as in Jackie, DJ Auer, Auer is my last name. DJ Auer, 1984, which was the year Jackie and I were married.
No.
So DJ Auer, 1984 at gmail.com.
Well, I will be sure to put that in the show notes along with the social the socials that you've given us too. Dana, it's been an absolute joy chatting with you. We've sort of been in each other's world for a few years now, but not had this much of an opportunity to chat. So I've loved getting to know you better. And thank you for sharing your what you've learned along the way with our listeners today. I know it's going to have helped others who are coming up behind you. So thank you so, so much.
Sure appreciate the opportunity, Emma. You've been one of the biggest blessings to me in the whole journey.
Mm.
So I hope it's paying forward as well and giving back. So thank you.